floating head is exhausting. Hello and welcome everyone, I am the Lily that dilly-dallies and this is my show Lily Dally. And today I've decided to talk about a topic that isn't controversial at all, that everyone can agree on. Doctor Who. I just thought Love and Monsters wasn't that bad. Doctor Who was always kind of primed for spin-offs. I mean, when you've been running since 1963, you're bound to have a lot to work with. And once the show returned in 2005 after 16 years off the air, not counting the 1996 TV movie because that's a story for another day, they really started taking advantage of that. Just a year after the series was revived, there was Torchwood, which is like if Doctor Who fucked. Then there was the Sarah Jane Adventures, which was made for a much younger audience and featured the character of Sarah Jane Smith, who first appeared in the classic series before returning to the show in 2006. And then in 2009, there was K9, another spin-off starring a classic Who character. I mean, it's the most obvious choice for a spin-off. It's a robot dog, and who doesn't love robot dogs?
Insufficient data.
Yeah, you never fucking know the answer when it's important.
Well, I guess that answers that question. Here's another. Part 1. What is this? K9 is a show, I think. It ran for one series, airing from late 2009 until 2010, which my DVD boldly claims is the first series. Feeling a bit confident today, are we? And was headed by Paul Tams and the character's co-creator Bob Baker. It's unique in Doctor Who history as it was produced in Australia, God bless us and our ability to make serviceable television, and is the only official piece of Doctor Who media made without the involvement of the BBC, which as a result, makes none of this canon and bars them from directly referencing its parent show. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. If anything, it gives them more freedom by not being restrained by the Doctor Who canon. It could be interesting. I hope. So what is K9 actually about? Well, let's check the DVD, and I have to say we're already off to a bad start because it's one of those cases where all the discs fall out if you look at it funny. Let's see, we got a man being choked, blue snot, and someone on the way to the rave from Matrix 2. Ah, there we go. K9 follows the adventures of 3 teenagers. Isn't this show about a robot dog? Ah well, can't get all our information off the back of the box, so let's actually dive into the show. So it's the year 2050 and Great Britain, or at least London because we don't see much else of the country in this show, is under the leadership of the dystopian government agency, the Department. The Department of what? Certainly not security if this fetus can hack into your technology. This here is Starkey, a 14-year-old hacker man who's on the run from the law for his efforts against the oppression of the department. And according to his bio on the DVD, he's like Nelson Mandela. Ah. Of course. The resemblance is uncanny. Are they saying that the fictional government in this robot dog kid show is as bad as apartheid South Africa? That's bold. Suddenly, there's a woman! This is Georgie, a fellow hacker who wants to join Starkey in the resistance against the department. But introductions are cut short when the police in this world, the CCPC, show up.
Too slow, Robo-Fuzz.
Could you sound any less interested? They outrun the officers, but that's not really saying much considering they're about as fast as molasses. And they hide away in a nearby mansion. This is the residence of one Professor Alistair Griffin, an agoraphobic scientist working on a time travel device known as the Space-Time Manipulator, or STM for short. Or he's just playing with tubes because that's what science looks like in the future. The department are interested in utilizing it, the machine, not the tubes, for their own purposes, but the professor has his own reasons to develop the technology. Starkey trips on a wire, causing the device to malfunction and accidentally summon the Ninja Turtles, but all of a sudden K9 appears and starts blasting the turtles, encouraging the others to escape.
This is what you get for the next mutation.
Unfortunately, he is blown up during battle. Well, that's it. The show's over. Bye! We are then introduced to the other resident of the Griffin household, Darius. Who the hell names their kid Darius? Did your parents hate you? Well, we do find out later his father is a cop, so probably. And he immediately gets excited by the mere presence of a woman.
Well, hello. Introductions are in order. Darius Pack, personal assistant and supplier of ordered goods.
A delivery boy, no less.
But no time for all that, as K9 is reassembled in a new form thanks to his regeneration unit. And with that, we have our main protagonist for this show, making up what the show calls the K9 unit. Part 2. What happened to my dog? So as we just witnessed, not only does K9 have a brand new cast of human companions, he has a whole new design to go along with it. And it's okay? It's not terrible, but it's nowhere near as iconic as his classic design. Something about that retro-futuristic, rectangular design is just so good, but it does make a little bit of sense to redesign the character for a new audience and to further distance itself from its Doctor Who counterpart. Instead of angular and boxy, this K9 is round. His edges have been softened and been made to be cuter in a way to appeal to younger viewers, though in my opinion his original design is much cuter. According to the show's co-creator Paul Tams, he had to fight with Disney. Yeah, Disney were involved as it was originally going to be made to air on their network, over K9's design in the series. They wanted his eye color changed because red is evil apparently. I didn't know Disney was run by bulls. They wanted floppier dog-like ears, and most controversially, they wanted to replace his iconic voice actor John Gleason.
There was a whole list of people Disney contacted for the role, and it's probably not right for me to mention names, but there were a couple of well-known pop stars and a very well-known actor who works in fantasy. I just said, this isn't going to make the show look or sound any better. All you're going to do is alienate the Doctor Who fans, who are the core audience. They were all weighing up the pros and cons until eventually I just had one of my very few hissy fits and said, we have to use John. We got our way.
They did get Leeson back for the show, which, thank God, I don't think any other voice would have worked. What pop stars in like 2008 were Disney wanting for the role? Could you imagine K9 being voiced by like, what, Chris Martin? James Blunt? Adele? We also have a new character arc for K9. During the process of rebuilding himself, not everything stayed intact, so he's lost his memory and needs to recover it so he can remember where and when he's from. This is clearly done to explain why nothing from Doctor Who is ever mentioned, and while amnesia is a pretty common storytelling trope, it's a pretty interesting setup for the show's events going forward. Part 3. So, how did we get here? If you're at all versed in Doctor Who history, you've probably been screaming, crying, maybe pissing a little bit, waiting for me to mention that this was not the first attempt at a K9 TV show. In 1981, a pilot episode for a show titled K9 and Company was produced and aired by the BBC. It featured K9 alongside Elizabeth Sladen, reprising her role as Sarah Jane Smith. Despite being seen by over 8 million viewers upon broadcast, it was not picked up for a full series. I don't know how they thought this wasn't good enough. I mean, just look at this title sequence. You've got running, drinking wine, more running, more drinking wine. It's enthralling stuff. And that was just the first attempt. In 1997, it was announced that Bob Baker, who had retained the rights for the K9 character, would be working on a 4-part pilot series alongside Paul Tams after Tams had approached Baker about doing a direct-to-video movie starring the character in the wake of the various fan films starring Doctor Who aliens and actors that came about after the show's initial end. It ultimately failed to get funding and was never produced. Fast forward 9 years later, Disney subsidiary Jetix Europe announced that they had teamed up with Baker and Tams to create a whole new K9 series independent from the established Who canon. One which would feature a character named Slowcum, as opposed to Fast Piss, and an overactive computer module in the shape of an attractive young woman. The people at Jetix had some very specific fetishes. Then in 2008, after Jetix had been swallowed by Disney XD, production would shift gears, moving to Brisbane, Queensland, abandoning the initial Jetix pitch, and going with an entirely new premise and a new cast of characters. Part 4. Okay, so who the hell are the other guys? Let's talk about the characters, starting with resident hacker boy Starkey, played by Keegan Joyce. Also known as Stark Reality, because it was 2009 and Iron Man was still fresh in people's minds. He's our supposed main character of this series besides K9, as he's the first character we really meet, the main force rebelling against the department. He's referred to as Master by K9, and he's the face of the first disc in the set. And you'd think that'd make him interesting, but no, not really. If you got a plank of wood and stuck some curly hair on it, you'd pretty much get the same effect.
What time is it anyway? Whatever you are, I'm sure we can work this out like reasonable human aliens.
This kid gets sent to prison in the first episode and it seems like he couldn't care less. Outside of the start of the series, his hacking ability takes a backseat and he mostly focuses on helping out with the development of the space-time manipulator. In the first episode, he makes a point about how he works alone.
I've told you before, Stark Reality works alone.
But that aspect of his character is pretty quickly thrown out of the window, as most of the time it feels like K9 just does everything for him. We learn in episode 11, Ouroboros, that he was orphaned at a young age. The episode begins with the space-time manipulator being turned on without anyone activating it, which I don't know why everyone seems so surprised. This seems to happen constantly in this show. And Starkey having a strange itch on his shoulder. After Griffin runs some blood tests on him, we discover that Starkey has alien antibodies, which is why he hasn't been affected by the alien of the week, the Ouroboros, a time-eating snake who's been causing moments in time to disappear all across London.
Wild reports are coming in from all over London that tube after tube is arriving on time.
That's right. We are proud to announce 100% on-time running, even for trains running several hours late.
Are we sure he's a bad guy? Griffin tells him that there were only 2 scientists who were crazy enough to experiment with alien antibodies on humans, with their subject being their own child. being confirmed at the end that these were very likely Starkey's parents. While I love this as a concept, and it's a cool piece of backstory, it doesn't flesh out Starkey's character much as the show fails to expand upon it after this episode. This is all we learn about his parents, we never see them, and they're only briefly mentioned in the 24th episode, The Last Precinct.
Yeah, well, at least you've got parents.
In this show, we see the families of Griffin, Georgie, and Darius in various capacities, so it's strange we never got to meet Starkeys. Them being scientists could have been a great backdrop to a story. They could have potentially had a connection with Griffin. It could explain why Starkey has such a knack for science and technology. There's a lot of cool ideas that they just don't do. Darius snarks that it means Starkey is an alien, and honestly, it could have made for interesting character development if he was like, part alien or had been spliced with alien DNA by his parents. And he had to grapple with the ramifications of that. Maybe it could have given him powers of some sort. At least that would make him more deserving of main character status if he had nothing else going for him. They could have just done something cool with what they had, but they just didn't go anywhere with it. He also has a romantic subplot with Georgie, but it's developed sporadically and spread out across the season. It mostly just feels like it's there out of obligation than any real chemistry. Georgie, played by Philippa Coulthard, has a lot more to her, I reckon. While introduced as another rebellious teenager acting against the department, it's revealed at the end of the second episode, Liberation, that her mother, June, works for the department, which makes her understandably feel conflicted, as she now has to grapple between maintaining her relationship with her mother and her efforts to bring down the department, which I feel adds a layer of depth to her character. She clearly wants to impress her mother and not let her down, exemplified by the fact she's a bit of an overachiever. In Regeneration, it's established she does ballet lessons, which while she's not too keen on, she does it as it's what her mother wants. And in Alien Avatar, it's revealed that's only one of many activities she partakes in.
Shouldn't you be at ballet class or something?
No, it's Wing Chun Kung Fu on Thursdays, right after lacrosse training. Oh, and soccer training.
Have you ever considered voice training?
Fuck, maybe I need to follow Griffin's advice. It's clear that she cares a lot about her mother and their relationship and wants to be a good daughter but has to balance that with her ideology. She has a strong sense of justice and empathy, even when it could put her in harm's way. When witnessing the assault of a protester by the hands of the CCPC in Sirens of Ceres, she doesn't want to just stand around and do nothing while an innocent person is being attacked while Starkey films the events on his phone. Sirens of Ceres is a pretty solid episode. Georgie ends up being sent to a fancy schmancy private school by her mother at the suggestion of her co-worker Drake, to discipline her for her rebellious actions. At the school, she runs into the protester again, named Rebecca, oh god, her name's gonna be that bad in 2050, and meets a group of girls and realizes something's definitely up.
Your hair is lovely.
Lovely.
God, they're creepy. Not because they're mind-controlled, but because they're private schoolers. She gets up to leave, but a laser is shot from the ceiling and hits her hand. She goes back to the Griffin household to talk to the others, where suddenly they're all massive assholes.
Georgie, you put your mother in a difficult position.
Tough day at private school probably was the worst day of your life.
She has a literal scar on her hand from a laser and they just could not give less of a shit. Georgie, being the only one with a functioning brain cell this episode, realizes the bracelets they're wearing are the cause of their behavior, as it puts them under the control of none other than Drake.
Higher. Higher. Perfect.
And now I'm genuinely uncomfortable. This show succeeded in getting an emotional reaction out of me. Great work, guys! She brings K9 to the school, detecting an alien mineral in the bracelets, and destroys them, revealing that one of the girls was actually a robot, meaning that this guy went through the effort of building a robot little girl to control. Ew. I think this episode does a good job of displaying facets of Georgie's character, but I really don't like that they had to make the rest of the main cast idiotic assholes to do it. I mean, there's a subplot where Starkey falls in love with the hypnotized Rebecca. It's really weird. It shows she's driven by what she believes in, even if it gets her in trouble with her mother. It helps that Georgie's actress has one of the best performances of the teens. Darius is my least favorite character by far. He's an arrogant asshole, but that's not why I don't like him as a character. Many movies and shows have likable asshole characters who ultimately have a good heart. Even the Doctor has been a dick with a heart of gold on many occasions. He has none of the humor and entertainment value to back it up. If you're gonna have one of your protagonists be a piece of shit, at least give us a reason to like them. This is not helped by the rather flat performance by Daniel Webber. I guess this helped him in the long run, as he would later play one of the most unlikable men in music. We learn throughout the show that he doesn't have the greatest relationship with his family. He mentions in the 3rd episode, The Corvin, that they don't see eye to eye and that he didn't feel like he had much freedom. Later, we learn his father abandoned him and his mother to join the Last Precinct in the episode of the same name, a faction of former human police officers protesting against their replacement by the cybernetic CCPC. He forgives his father at the end of the episode, but it feels so forced and unearned. I think it would have been a lot more impactful if he didn't forgive him, but maybe that's a bit much to expect from a kid's show. Darius ran away from home sometime after his father left and became the delivery boy for Griffin due to the professor's agoraphobia, eventually starting to live with him, developing a somewhat familial bond. He also has a talking car that he hits on. I assume because no other woman wants him. I don't know why they put that in the show. The car doesn't show up enough to warrant it, it's just weird as all hell.
I could kiss you right now.
I'd rather you just clean out all the junk food wrappers from off the back seat.
Griffin is easily the best part of this show. Not only because his actor Robert Maloney is giving one of the most engaging performances out of everyone else in this series, but also because there's a lot to him as a character. From the start of the series, we can tell there's more to him than he's letting on. His main motivation for developing the space-time manipulator is because he tragically lost his family, his wife and 2 kids, and desperately wants to bring them back. It haunts him throughout the series and it impacts his relationship with the rest of the characters. This is expanded upon in the 7th episode, The Fall of the House of Griffin. Bit of a mouthful, I know. It's a pastiche of haunted house horror movies. After the STM suddenly turns on during a storm, beings resembling Griffin's wife and children start appearing around the mansion. Griffin is very obviously extremely emotional about this. He's been working day and night to be back with them, and for all he knows, this is them. It turns out they're echoes, particles of the STM that have taken on the form of his family due to his numerous attempts to bring them back. And to become corporeal, they must take the life of a human being. In this case, that being the teens. They manipulate Griffin, which obviously makes him extremely conflicted. From an outsider, it seems obviously bad what the echoes are doing, but trauma clouds the mind. He so desperately wants to reunite with his family, and this might be the closest he can get. He does realize that this is not his real family, saving the teens, and the echoes retreat back into the space-time continuum. This episode is pretty good. The haunted house stuff is a little bit silly. Having the kids stand around like the twins from The Shining feels a little unnecessary, but it does a pretty good job of developing Griffin's character. It's good stuff. Except for one moment. When K9 is trying to convince Griffin to stop the echoes from taking the lives of the others, he says this.
We must use an alternative to blasting. Starkey, you are the closest thing Griffin has to a real son.
No, the fuck he is not! At this point in the show, we have seen nothing to indicate that Starkey is the closest thing to a real son Griffin has. That is not a dynamic that has been established. We do not see a father-son bond develop between these 2 characters. Also, that's just a horrible thing to say to someone whose children are dead. Genuinely, I had to stop watching the show for a bit after this moment because it frustrated me so much. It nearly ruins the episode for me. Like, maybe I would understand a little bit more if they said Darius because they've known each other for a bit longer, but Starkey? Really? They so desperately want Starkey to be the main character, but they have nothing to show for it. I don't like being mad at shows, games, movies, what have you. The angry reviewer thing is old news by now. I don't go into a piece of media trying to hate it, and I'll say it right now, I don't hate this show. It's not great, but there are certainly things to like about it. But this moment, this specific moment, I absolutely hate it. I set up a green screen for this. That's how much I hated it. Okay, I think we're good now. Throughout the show, as he develops a closer bond with the people he currently has in his life, he ultimately decides to let his family rest and focus on the people he has now, not wanting to potentially change the course of time to see his family again. It's honestly quite sweet, and it's a great allegory for grief. It proves this show is certainly capable of telling a good story. We also learn he has a strained relationship with the department as a result of the various experiments he has been a part of. The extreme weather in the 13th episode, Aeolian, is blamed on Griffin as he was one of the scientists involved in the Great Cataclysm, which happened in an attempt to combat global warming with an experimental global cooling agent, leading to a quarter of the world becoming a frozen wasteland. I do like that this does get mentioned throughout the show a few times in an attempt at world building, but unfortunately we don't get to see much of it outside of episode 23, Angel of the North, which I feel is a missed opportunity. Part of me wishes we could have gotten Fallout on Ice. A girl can dream. Griffin is even the one to ultimately save the day in the finale, which also concludes another arc of his as he finally overcomes his agoraphobia. This is his doctor moment, which made me realize he's kind of a stand-in for the Doctor in this show. He's extremely knowledgeable about science, technology, and the world around him. He's been through a lot of pain and trauma and has indirectly hurt and even potentially killed many people in the case of the Cataclysm. And here he finally gets to be the hero and redeem himself. If anything, he is the main character of this show. Hang on, what's this show called again? Part 5. This show is about K9, right? So yes, while this show is called K9, he's not really the main character. But to be fair, that would be quite difficult. Even with the 1981 pilot, it was decided that they needed a human lead for the show due to the limitations of K9 as a character in a live-action setting. He needs someone to bounce off of. But that's not to say K9 does nothing in this show. He is the driving force of the story after all, and he does have his own development as a character. The ongoing storyline is that he has developed memory loss as a result of his circuits being scrambled during the regeneration process, and the rest of the K9 unit are trying to help him recover his memories so he can remember where he came from and be sent back to his own time. His robo-amnesia is exploited and manipulated several times by villains throughout the show. The 4th episode, The Bounty Hunter, introduces us to, well, a bounty hunter. Who did you expect? The milkman? His name is Ahab, and he looks like he was ripped straight out of Jack 2. He's here because there's supposedly a price on K9's head for the murder of the head of the Galactic Peace Commission in the 501st century. K9, of course, has no memory of this. We see an incomplete recording of the event with the actual cause of death conspicuously missing from the footage. The current evidence leads the others to question whether he really did do it and for K9 to believe he's guilty, and he goes to turn himself in. This is great news for the department as they've been trying to get their paws on him to use his technology, so they team up with Ahab to acquire K9. Ahab pulls K9 towards the STM vortex with a leash-like device that's so cold it restores his memory of the event. I mean, of course. Don't you know anything about science? Revealing that Ahab was the real murderer, and he even remembered to put on his best killing face. Georgie saves the day by throwing a cup of tea at him, as if you'd have a better idea, and knocks him into the vortex where he is left to float in the vastness of space, which he can apparently breathe in. And in the 11th episode, Curse of Anubis, an alien race known as the Anubians come down to Earth. They explain that K9 once freed them from their oppressors, although K9 has no memory of this. They revere him, almost treating him like a god. Suspicious, Starkey and Georgie find out they had enslaved other alien races and that humans are next in line. But before they can warn K9, the aliens hypnotize them with these headbands, the same mind control technology once used against them. Also, I have to say, Griffin, you are slaying with that eyeliner. Just look at those wings. It's ultimately Darius who helps K9 realize he is being manipulated, and the two save the day. I feel like these episodes could have been aired closer together due to their similarities. K9 is manipulated and led to believe he either was the bad guy or assisted the bad guys. I think restricting the bounty hunter plot to a single episode was a mistake, as it could have made for an interesting storyline, adding some tension into the human's relationship with K9. Even if it only lasted like a few episodes, it could have been interesting, and the others could have learned to trust K9 more. Instead, they get rid of him in one episode but repeat the same conflict a few more times. There's even an episode where Drake builds an evil K9. That could have easily been a part of this storyline. They repeat things with K9 pretty often. Many times throughout the show he's in danger or out of commission or something similar. He's even the subject of several running jokes.
This unit does not appreciate the term dog boy. I am not a boy. This unit is not a boy.
K9? More like Woke 9. Part 6. The Bad Guys. The department is set up as the main evil of the show, but who actually makes up the department? Well, one of the first members we meet is June, Georgie's mother. While not necessarily a villain, I am including her in this part of the video as she is a part of the department. Try saying that 5 times fast. As I talked about in Georgie's section, June has a fraught relationship with her daughter as she's a member of the very thing her daughter is fighting against. But as the show goes on, we see June become more and more disillusioned with the department, constantly questioning their motives and sometimes even trying to put a stop to their plans. She starts to work with our heroes more, even declaring them a sector of the department, which is weird, but I'll get into that later. It's clear her motivations do lie in actually trying to better the world, but is restricted by her employment. I'm personally disappointed she didn't just leave the department altogether and join the resistance, instead opting for a fixing the system from the inside deal, which I'm not particularly fond of. Robin Moore's performance as June is great, and it's clear she really does care about Georgie, even if it leans into overprotective territory. There's a very funny moment in the episode Dream Eaters where we learn one of the scariest things to her is Georgie getting a tattoo.
A tattoo? How could you? You're only 14, and Darius, what were you thinking?
Gotcha.
It's nice seeing the two of them see more eye to eye as the show progresses. Now let's talk about the real villains. Drake is next in line. He's the head of security at the department. Clearly he's not doing a good job if a kid can hack them. And the main villain for like the first half of the show. Yes, the first half of this show. After episode 15, he gets demoted by the department and we just never see him again. He's incredibly reckless in his efforts to get his hands on alien technology, especially K9, which ultimately leads to his downfall. He's not an especially intimidating villain, which is not helped by the fact he looks not much older than Starkey. He is replaced by Inspector Fawn, who is certainly a whole lot more intimidating. He's much older for one, and he's just a whole lot more threatening. I don't know why they just didn't have him in place of Drake from the start. We learn in the finale that he had been conspiring with the alien species, the Corvin, in their plans to destroy humanity and take over Earth.
Of course!
To the point that he has been spliced with Corvin DNA. The Corvin in concept are honestly terrifying. They don't kill you, but they strip you of your brain, taking away everything about who you are as a person. They're revealed to be the catalyst of the events of the show as the space-time manipulator comes from their ship, nicknamed the Fallen Angel, which is mentioned in the very first episode. Overall, I'd say Fawn is a pretty solid villain, even if he can't help but grit his teeth all the goddamn time. He should have been the bad guy from the start. Part 7. So, what is this show actually trying to say? That's right, I'm about to go book report mode on your ass because we're gonna talk about themes. Not unlike its parent show, K9 has a political through line across the whole series. The department is a fascist, totalitarian government that limits the speech and actions of its own citizens and constantly demonizes the other, which in this case is literal aliens. It's honestly pretty cool seeing a show for a young audience that shows the importance of protest through the main characters, though the show's ideology does get a bit murky at times. As I mentioned earlier, our protagonists essentially joined the department, the very thing they're fighting against. Even if it's under June's jurisdiction, it's very strange that they would so willingly join the very government body that's the source of all their problems. In Liberation, we see a prison full of aliens from other planets being held captive by the department regardless of their innocence. The episode is very much going for an immigration allegory, and with that in mind, it's really weird that the only two options there seem to be for the aliens are either being imprisoned or being sent back to their home planet. It feels a bit icky.
If any of these alien types commit a crime on Earth, we'll know what we're looking for.
And what if they're innocent?
Would you have them wandering around London?
They should just be sent back home.
We've tried. No, Griffin. This is the only way.
Many depictions of the future in fiction show aliens and humans coexisting, so I don't know why that's never considered an option here. It's further weakened when the show states that some species of aliens are inherently evil, like the Corvin and the Anubians. It feels just a teeny bit fucked. There's an oddly nuanced take on the police force in The Last Precinct. While we've seen the CCPC be violent and oppressive throughout the show, it shows the human officers to be not much better. It shows that regardless of flesh or steel, cops are still ultimately an oppressive force abusing their power, which is oddly profound for K9 of all things. Like, yes, a human is always going to be a better choice for a job than an AI, but a cop is still a cop. Lastly, I think the most well-executed theme in this show is that found family can be just about, if not more important than blood family. By the end of the show, the K9 unit have formed a close familial bond with each other, something they all desperately needed. Again, this doesn't mean Starkey is the closest thing to a real son for Griffin. Found family doesn't need to be a direct equivalent to biological family. It's a really sweet message that you don't see in a lot of kid shows. What isn't sweet is this CGI. Part 8. Why does it look like that? It's no secret that this show isn't particularly high budget. It has a certain aura only seen in Australian children's TV. There's a lot of strange editing choices throughout the show. For example, when the Jixen move, the Ninja Turtle aliens from earlier, they have this weird distortion and it's honestly nauseating to look at. I don't know why they decided this looked better than how it would without the effect. Did they think it made them look more intimidating? Because it doesn't. It just gives me a migraine. As has been mentioned, this show, though taking place in London, was shot in Brisbane, which of all Australian cities to choose from, they picked the least London-y one. According to Bob Baker,
I think London could also change into a more tropical climate over the next few decades, so the odd palm tree wouldn't look out of place.
I don't think that's how that works, Bob. As a result, there's a lot of stock footage of London inserted throughout for establishing shots and scenes of K9 flying. Going from stock footage to original shots often looks jarring as the color grading is often completely different and the stock footage looks like it was shot decades ago. Keeping with Doctor Who tradition, the visual effects are
The Ouroboros is blocking the door.
not very good. The show often opts for suit monsters, which while looking a bit silly, is significantly more charming. And when the show opts for VFX, it's often... Part 9. That's it. So that's K9, and it's fine, I guess? The show's reception is generally pretty negative, especially among Doctor Who fans, but I think some parts of it are pretty okay. It's not great, some parts are even frustratingly mediocre, but I don't hate it. I think with better writing, direction, and acting, we could have gotten something pretty good, and a worthy addition to Doctor Who's expansive history. Instead, we got K9 farting a lot.
Excuse me?
There were plans for a potential second season, hence the optimism on the box. But much like previous attempts at K9 standalone media, it never came to fruition. Unfortunately, Bob Baker passed away in 2021, and despite reassurances that there would be new original K9 adventures, nothing has seemed to come of that since he published Megabytes, an anthology book, in 2020. There was even a planned K9 movie which didn't go anywhere. Really seems like K9 is cursed. Well, I think that's all for now. Leave a like if you liked this video, subscribe if you want to see more like this, let me know what you thought in the comments below, and if you want to support me directly, I have a Ko-fi page linked in the description below. Anyways, I've been Lilly and you just heard me dilly-dally about the K9 spin-off show. Until next time, folks.